Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday Q&A. I'm Eric Griffin, President of ITM Trading. With me, I have Lynette Zang, our Chief Market Analyst. For those of you who don't know or are tuning in for the first time, we take your questions submitted to us via email to questions@itmtrading.com. We put them here on the screen in front of us, and we ask them live so you get a real, true, organic, spontaneous response. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm always ready.
I need the questions, Edgar.
When have you ever asked me if I was ready and I said, no, not yet?
I was trying to give Edgar time to get me the questions.
Oh. Oh, okay. So this really is Edgar ready.
I was looking at it and going,
ready.
I don't see questions. Can't really ask you any. All right.
Okay.
Viewer questions. Here we go. All right. So this Al-Anon SR3 asks, how do you buy gold without the government knowing you did? I can actually
Go
answer
ahead.
this one pretty
Answer
quick.
that one.
There's no dealer, no gold or silver dealer is required to report anything upon a like a purchase. So any customer who does a purchase from us, there is no reporting to the government that you bought anything from us, and that's true with any gold dealer in the country. Now, are they monitoring your payment methods or anything like that? I can't speak to that. Maybe they are. Maybe they know. You sent a.
Well, that's why they want to do the CBDCs, because
Right.
Then everything passes through.
Right. Then for
easier.
sure they do.
Yeah.
But could they know if you sent a wire to ITM Trading that you're buying gold or silver? Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. I have no.
It's non-reportable.
I have no idea on that. But we definitely do not report anything. No one reports anything. And for most sales, there isn't reporting either. There is on certain bullion products and certain quantities, on time frames and that kind of stuff. And you can do your research on that upon the sale of it. But that's strictly a 1099 that you would use for to the IRS for tax reporting purposes. But on the buy side, there's nothing. Anything you want to add to that?
It's the last vestige of anything private, even according to the Bank for International Settlements.
Gold and silver is.
Correct.
Yeah.
Physical, not paper and not GLD and things like that. But when you have the physical metals, it's the most private thing that you can do. That's why central banks don't like it.
All right, so Doshi asks, does the Dodd-Frank Act apply to federal credit unions as far as bail-ins are concerned?
Yes. The answer is yes. And, small commercial or small local banks, as well as credit unions or any of those entities, they have to all go through the commercial banks, the larger commercial banks, for their cash needs and everything else. So the answer is yes, and I believe they even talked about it. Maybe I didn't capture that in the 3.5 hours, but the answer is yes.
All right, so Roger S. asks, with the possibility of negative interest rates, bail-ins, and overnight resets, would these happen in a certain order?
Well, the overnight reset happens when all confidence is lost and we're in hyperinflation. So, your pack of gum now costs you $3,000, right? And they have to lop off the zeros. So that's usually, and since they do that on average 3 times, I wouldn't say that there's necessarily an order, but it really is about regaining and maintaining the confidence of the public. The negative interest rates will happen most likely before the bail-ins because there's no purchasing power left. And even though the central banks are trying to raise up interest rates, and they have, certainly everybody knows that they have, and the bail-ins will happen, the negative rates will happen probably first, Then the bail-ins will happen as the banks start to go under. And when people lose confidence and we're dead in the hyperinflation and there are too many zeros on there, that's when they will do the overnight reset. And probably 3, although there'll be some time in between. So, and once you're bailed in, Are you really going to want to put more money into the banking system? No, but if everything is in CBDCs, are you going to have any choice if you don't have physical gold and silver in your possession? No, you're not going to have any choice. That's why it is critically important that you do own physical gold and silver and you have possession of it. Excuse me. I'm getting excited.
All right, so Roger S. also asks, what are the triggers we should watch out for? Probably hyperinflation, right? Would be the first thing that you would see?
No, because the bail-ins, I mean, really what they're talking about, they tested negative rates since 2009, and it was only recently that all of the negative rates are now gone. So they need more control. I think the CBDCs will happen first. And
Makes
because
sense.
then you're not going to be able to escape the negative rates.
Right.
Right? Nor will you be able to escape the bail-ins.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing that happens is the overnight reset.
Makes sense that
Sorry, I had a tickle in my throat.
the CBDCs would come first, and then I
Right.
would think hyperinflation would come second, don't you? Or do you think we go into a negative interest rate environment before we see
We're totally
hyperinflation kick in?
Yes, I do think that we're going to go see the negative rates. I think hyperinflation we're already at the beginning of. I don't think this is something that I'm really waiting for. You know, they're doing this huge dog and pony and saying, yeah, well, maybe we won't have a recession, or if we do, it'll be short-lived and it'll be shallow and all that kind of garbage. Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is garbage to seduce you into thinking that they have a handle on this when they don't. So, yes, have the metrics that they pay attention to determine the inflation, have they come down a little bit? Yes, because you've got oil trading in the 80s. But you also have the oil producing OPEC plus, so the oil producing nations plus Russia, who we have just now started supplying, and Germany, etc., the tanks, which some think could be an
You mean
escalation to Ukraine, right? So Russia's going to view that as an escalation, and you know, I'll let you determine whether or not you think it's an escalation. You know, I mean, we're on the verge of World War III if we haven't already started it. You know, so you know, bail-ins are going to happen as the banks fail. And if you didn't watch the piece that I just did on the FDIC, don't listen to me. Listen to the guys that are managing this at the FDIC. They're telling you there will be a bail-in.
I read this morning, and I forget what the name of the organization that does it, but they marked us at 90 seconds to midnight on the apocalypse scenario, and they said that the Ukraine situation is what has escalated that to like a World War III type scenario. 90 seconds to midnight is where it's at right now, which is
Wow.
I think is the closest it's been.
I would imagine so, but you know, when this whole thing first started, I mean, look, at one thing that always comes into a currency reset circumstance is war, because that justifies the inflation. And have they not used that? Oh, well, you know, they didn't have inflation under control before this whole thing happened. So, yeah, they need us. People always make the assumption that they want to keep this thing going. But when you know you're at the end, then what do you want to do? If you know you're declaring bankruptcy, you load up those credit cards, right? And we see huge amounts of debt issuance right now, even at this rate. Well, I mean, that's because they know they're declaring bankruptcy. So what comes first, the chicken or the eggs? I mean, I really do think it's the CBDCs. I think there's going to be a major crisis that's going to scare the crap out of a lot of people because there's constant crises now, right? So we get over one, then that sends us into another, which means we're always kept off balance, right? And that's what they need. They need you to be confused. They need you to feel off balance. So then they'll ride in with their white horses. Remember, everybody's already got an account set up. Even if you don't realize it, you have an account set up. And there's some kind of crisis. And then they just fund those those accounts with CBDCs because, after all, they're going to bail everybody in the world out. Yeah, it's really a mess. And they want adoption. They want adoption. I don't want adoption.
Easiest way to do that is get people scared.
Isn't it, though?
All right, so Ann J asks, when they reset and lop off zeros on checking and savings accounts to a new currency, is the same math formula used for revaluation of home loans, for example?
Well, historically, no. Historically, what they do is they create a formula so that it tracks the inflation. So maybe.
But when they lop off the zeros, doesn't it lop off the zeros across the board? It's a
typically
currency
it does actually,
reset,
you're
so
right.
it lops off the zeros across
the board. Right. So it makes everything look okay.
Right.
But it really isn't.
So if they I think because this person was kind of getting, it seems like they were getting to like, hey, if they lop off the zeros on the checking and savings accounts, does the mortgage value stay the same? Well, that wouldn't make any sense because no one would be able to pay it.
Well, what they want to do during these circumstances, and we experienced that here in 2008, are change the terms. Change the terms where you don't even realize that they changed the terms because it's set up as this is going to help you. Yeah, no, it isn't. Edgar, would you write that down and let me see? I don't think I found the data on that, but I'll look at that because I don't want to give you any misinformation. So stay tuned. He'll remind me. I've got this thing coming up this weekend, so I'm probably not going to have a chance to really
ask Fernando because he went through it in Mexico. Yeah, he went through
it in Mexico. Yeah, we could ask Fernando.
Okay.
But I'll do a little research on it as well and come back.
Okay.
Just don't let me forget, Edgar. Okay.
All right, C. Kelly asks, when we switch to CBDCs, can we still make payments with cash that was previously withdrawn from the bank?
The answer is yes, because you're always going to be able to make a deposit, right? They want you to volunteer, right? So if you have cash outside of the bank right now, they call that cash in the wild because it doesn't yet have that chip in it. So yes, the answer is yes. You're going to be able to make a deposit into the account. And that's kind of also the way that you would use your barterable gold, right, to make your tax payments and things like that. You'll liquidate it if you need to turn it into the current currency. So yes, you'll be able to make your deposits.
All right, so we can move to some live questions. Let me see. So this Neo question here, I think, is in relationship to something that you say all the time, which is, they put the banks get the money first, and then,
yes.
right, it trickles down. So Neo asks, can you please explain how a dollar loses its value when it moves down from banks to corporations to the people?
Right. The dollar has the most value the moment that it is created. Then after that, inflation erodes its value. So who gets it first? The corporations. Then the government. The government is second.
Well, the banks
right?
first, right?
Yes.
Banks, then corporations.
Banks are corporations.
Right, but if we're going to say corporations, though, I think we should separate it because the banks ultimately get it. Commercial banks ultimately get it first. Right.
But they are corporations.
For
They're
sure.
private
For
corporations. Sure. So yes, they get it first. Now, by the time it trickles down to you, there's been a time lag. And that's why by the time you get it, it has less value than the moment that it was created. And that's how that works.
Right, and the fractional reserve banking system allows that to be that kind of money that comes into the commercial banks gets leveraged out, and so now it's made it even less valuable because they've then the banks basically are creating more money by getting it and lending it through fractional reserve.
Right.
So they're getting it first, which has the most value, and then creating more, which then lessens the value even more. It's like, inflation on steroids, so to speak.
Well, it is. And if you look at the purchasing power chart, right? I mean, then you can see that more easily because maybe they got it in 19, or say 2023, right? By the time it trickles through the system, that's that trickle down theory that really doesn't work. by the time it trickles through the system, you've got a lag time. Maybe it's a year, maybe it's 18 months, and then you get it. So that's how that works. But if you go to the FRED, F-R-E-D, and you know, I use that graph all the time, the purchasing power, just kind of, you can see it. It's visible, right? Just kind of depends on, because you don't get it at the same time the corporations or the banks get it. But banks are corporations.
Okay, so Clayton M asks, I can't afford to buy 1 ounce gold coins. I do buy silver coins. My question is it okay with me buying grams of gold until I'm able to buy 1 ounce gold coins?
Well, you know, Clayton, there are all different sizes of gold coins too. So rather than doing a 1 ounce coin, maybe you can afford a fractional gold coin. It doesn't only have to be a 1 ounce coin.
Right. Well, I think that's what he's asking. Can I buy it in grams? But he's asking.
Well, but
he's asking bullion. Right.
Right. Because when I see that, then I immediately go to bullion, and you know, and I don't buy that.
If you're spending a low amount of money, I'm all for buying silver rounds, silver eagles, because it's barterable. It still has. It's not the primary currency metal, right? It's one part. It's just one part of a total strategy that you would ultimately want to have. But if you have to scrap together some money to get into precious metals, there's nothing wrong with sticking even just to silver on the lower end of it. As you got into a larger position, then it makes sense to go into gold. But if we're talking about, if we're going really by Lynette and I's strategy of what we're doing, then we're not buying, we might be buying gold Swiss francs and stuff like that, but we're not buying like grams of gold, 10th ounce gold eagles. We're not really, Lynette and I don't buy that kind of stuff.
No.
But silver's great for that on the low end, and it, like I said, it's only one part of the overall strategy. So
yeah.
But once you get to a certain level where you can build it in a bigger strategy, which is, you know, probably, how much do you think? 10,000?
Well, here's the thing, Eric. I think you need both, period. So if I had like $1,000,
okay, this
for
is
example,
a good conversation.
Right? Let's say I had $1,000 that I could work with, right? I would probably do one fractional gold coin and the balance of it in silver. I still need a combination because at the end of the day, you know, you've got to have gold. That's the primary currency metal. That's what they do those overnight resets against. So you got to have both.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just tough when it's such a smaller dollar amount.
Even if I had, I mean, I think I don't even know what our minimum is because I don't do that work. It's 1,000, right? I like those fractional gold coins.
Yeah, I know.
Because you can afford, they're affordable, and then also the silver.
I don't disagree with you.
I mean, you have to do what you're comfortable with, and you know the position that you're in and what you have to work with. So yes, if all you can afford is silver, silver is certainly, silver is good. I like silver. I own a bunch of silver. But for me, that's just about barterability. You got to have the gold for the wealth preservation, and I mean, I don't know how much.
Especially if we go, Lynette's done a bunch of research that shows how much gold outperforms silver in a hyperinflationary situation or reset situations. I think you went back and did it against Germany, Venezuela, like a whole bunch.
I did a whole bunch of them.
And Edgar, if you know what the link is to that video, that'd be great to put in the description so people can see that. I think it's important. But
see, that's what happens though. People go, well, I don't really have very much money, so I'll load up on silver. But silver is an industrial metal as well as a monetary metal. Whereas gold is the primary currency metal, and it is certainly used in industry, but its primary function is really to maintain your purchasing power over time. And that is what it has performed beautifully for 6,000 years. So, you know, I mean, I think you just have to have both. And I.
So then the answer to your question is yes, it's okay to buy fractional gold coins.
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
All right.
Okay. if you
Oh,
haven't,
Edgar is saying we are done. Oh, you looked at the time. I see it. Okay, we're at 20. We're over 20 minutes. All right.
okay,
We got cut off. He was like, nope. Moving on.
I know.
Any
Well,
questions
he's the
that you saw
director.
on there? Yeah. Any questions that you saw on there, extra live questions, you can send them to the questions at itmtrading.com so that we can take a look at them and possibly get them on the next one. Cool.
There you go. So stay tuned. But if you have not done this yet, you definitely want to watch the video that I did on the FDIC plans for collapse and banks buy gold and plans for bail-in. And you listen to what these guys are saying. If you're so inclined, you will also have the link to the full 3.5-hour meeting, and you can listen to the whole thing. But they were basically calling the public, they didn't use the term Muppets, but they
Muppets.
were well,
I
that's
remember
the
there was-
Goldman Sachs used
That's
that.
right. That was right. The
That-
Goldman Sachs Muppets.
Right, because basically what they were indicating is the public is stupid.
Right.
I mean, and they even said, that the public has more confidence in the banks than the people in this room who are managing the dissolution of banks. Right? So you definitely, if you haven't watched that, and that's one that is really good to share because we're always trying to figure out how we can create things that, those that understand what's happening can share with those that, try and avoid knowing what's happening. But hey, everybody's got a bank account. Not everybody, but most people have a bank account, whether it's a checking account or a savings account. And so this is a critically important one. For you to watch because it's out of the horse's mouth. I mean, why these people don't think that's going to leak is just incredible to me. But okay. And also yesterday's video, they talk all the time about a soft landing. It's garbage. And that was the video that came out last night. So go ahead and take a look at that one. And by the way, I'm really excited because we've been working on this for quite some time. And we are now ready to launch on Friday our new Spanish-speaking video series with Fernando Grijalva, who's been here forever. 2009, I think?
Like 16 years or something? 15,
Something
15
like
years?
that, yeah. And, he and I have spent a lot of time figuring this stuff out and having conversations. So I am so excited about this series. And it's launching Friday. Do we have a time, Edgar? Probably at 1 on Friday. So
Arizona time.
make sure that you subscribe so we can let you know when these things are happening. And I really hope that it has a lot of positive impact for our Spanish-speaking viewers. And if you haven't already, again, make sure you subscribe. Give us a thumbs up if you like this. That helps push this stuff out more. Make a comment, leave us a comment, and share. Because ignorance does not make anybody immune. It just leaves them vulnerable. And let me tell you, we are all really, really vulnerable right now. So until next we meet, please be safe out there. Bye-bye.